players clicking in. Game number 1 launching here on Kamchatka. Round of 64 action, going to be an Aztec mirror being played by H2O and Zoe. I, of course, in case you are unaware, cannot read. I'm Suda. I am occupying the 3rd slot, and I will be your faithful camera driver for most of the series for today. Of course, we are recording the games because it is a tournament. We do want records of all of these events, and just loading into the game now. I'll turn off the fog and get up all the pretty little graphic options and get everything adjusted once all players load into the game successfully. I guess I can do this. There we go. I did have some people tell me that they prefer to see the population graph in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, so I'm going to put it up there for game number 1. And I do appreciate your feedback. If you prefer it up there, let me know. If you like it in the center of the map, like I've had it traditionally on SmackDown, let me know as well, and we can try and get that in a viewer-preferred location. But for the time being, we'll try it up here in the upper left-hand corner and see how that goes. But introducing our players, spawning in the bottom right side of the map of Kamchatka. Playing the Aztec civilization in the color red is Zoe. And his counterpart, spawning in the upper left-hand side of the map. Playing the blue Aztec is H2O. Of course, H2O, one of the unarguably best players to have ever played the game, did win WCG in 2008, participated in the US version of the event in 2007 as well. Lost parfait in, I believe, in the finals. Or maybe it was the semifinals, I don't remember, but then did go back and end up winning the whole thing in 2008 playing the Japanese civilization. So certainly a force to be reckoned with. Always has been a very high-level player. And certainly a tournament favorite here for many people to go very, very far, very deep into this event. But spawning over here, as I mentioned, with only 2 wood crates, so he is only going to have the fire pit and the single house, no market shenanigans going to go on for him, at least not now, unless he were to find some sort of a big treasure. Let's see what has been picked up. Just a little bit of a wood treasure and an XP treasure for each player, so nothing significant in terms of treasures just yet. We can see Zoe operating under the same principle, just the similar fire pit and the house going down, starting to herd his hunts nice and early. And I thought it was interesting that Zoe was the one dictating. Well, I guess I didn't find it overly interesting that Zoe was the one dictating the matchups, but I did find it a little bit strange that H2O opted for the Aztec mirror instead of playing, back to French or something against Aztec. I don't know that Aztec is necessarily one of his best civilizations, and so as a result, it was a little bit surprising to me that he did opt for the mirror in a matchup where I would think he would maybe be a little less comfortable, but did opt for that mirror, and it looks like so far things have paid off in spades for him. Look at all those goats he's got. Currently 8 goats to 0 goats for Zoe, which is going to be a nice little bonus as the players continue to progress deeper into the game. Of course, not expecting any livestock pen or farm equivalent, I guess, for the Aztecs in this game, but certainly going to be a nice little spike of food when those do get gathered up, sometime between probably 10 and 20 minutes, depending on the food situation at the time. But H2O currently working his way on up with the messenger, so going to be up nice and early, and Zoe similarly is aging with the messenger. So both sides opting, it looks, to play some sort of aggressive age 2 play, and I do expect 700 wood to come out of both players as the first cards. 3 villagers, of course, sent is the first card at this current time for both players. And oh, look at Zoe's Explorer getting a little bit low over there, but picking up a nice little treasure for him, an extra 75 food. And now that both players are aged up, we'll see how they go about using that. Of course, both players immediately sending their card, and both players likely going to be sending 700 wood. The reason I say that both players likely sending 700 wood is just due to the fact, if you take a look at If you take a look at the current state of what they've gathered, it's primarily been just food at this point. And aging up with a fast-aging politician, if you don't immediately ship 400 wood, you're going to have a really difficult time putting up the infrastructure needed to actually really do anything in the colonial age. So there comes the 700 wood from H2O. If we flip over to Zoe's base, I expect to see his 700 wood coming here as well. And now we'll actually get to see what the players are trying to do. We see H2O up here. Looks like, ooh, Zoe being a little bit crafty with his opening, shipping 3 Jaguar Prowler Knights, trying to catch H2O a little off guard, but it looks like it's not going to be successful. Those Jaguars are going to be beaten down on by the combination of the the Explorer, these couple villagers, and the war hut as well. Looks like Zoe does have, well, where does he have? He doesn't have his war hut up anywhere just yet. It just looks like it's coming back up at home. But just sending those couple of units from the tech and the big button is going to allow him to try and put on a little bit of pressure. It does kill a couple of coyotes here, but we do have to remember that did cost him, you know, upwards of 450 food to make. And as a result, he hasn't really accomplished anything. He's killed a couple coyote runners, which perhaps cuts down on the raiding potential that Ryan has slightly. But aside from that, didn't really accomplish too much, as certainly 10 mace is going to come out here for H2O now and deny any more pressure that would potentially going to come as a result of that. But back at home, Zoe is finishing up his war hut. Everything looking pretty standard, pretty steady in his base as well. And we'll see whether or not he goes with an economic shipment next, or he follows it up with a similar military shipment. Should have a, well, actually hasn't actually even sent that shipment. He does have it available to him, but looks like he hasn't chosen to send it just yet. But no, there it is, 6 Pumas. Actually, it looks like because of the XP that he got from killing the Explorer, he even had an extra shipment built up. So 6 Pumas is what it's going to be, and it looks like it's just going to be continued military pressure here from both sides. H2O trading a few more Coyote Runners, trying to peek in here, but it looks like he's going to see the War Hut and turn around and go the other way. Zoe coming... pushing out to the front side of his base, does have that 6 Puma shipment, has trained a few coyotes of his own, is well aware of the position where H2O is currently gathering from, and is also well aware of the current location of where this war hut is as well. So looks like not going to really do anything too crazy here. Also interesting to note, Zoe does have quite a few villagers dancing on his war pit. Perhaps it was just to get the war chief back, as he has currently rejoined the army, but has also pulled off the warrior priest and is training a couple warriors here as well. So it looks like Zoe is just gearing up for a very strong big push here, and hoping to break Ryan right away. I mean, H2O should see these couple warriors here in the mix and know that something a little bit funky is up as a result of just looking at this army composition. Certainly, if we take a look at the military shipments, Zoe has just shipped pure military units at this point. H2O has opted to go a little bit more economically with the 5 villagers as his next card. And as a result, you know, Zoe is going to start to fall behind slightly in terms of military production the longer this game goes. So I expect to see him maybe ship 1 more shipment. I think that's reasonable. There it is. And then push. And that's exactly what it's going to be. Perhaps flipping some villagers over. We can see that he's pulled the warrior priest off. He's going to bring that with him. Perhaps. Nope. Looks like he's going to drop that back. But certainly gearing up for this big push. Does have a couple warriors in here for some added range damage. They will be very low HP, but they do have very high ranged attack as well. 26 ranged attack. And I'll be curious to see as to whether or not he tries to make an all-out assault on the front side of H2O's base here at the war hut, or if he tries to go around it and just completely ignore it. Looks like he is going to try for a head-on assault, and H2O's honestly got a pretty good military count going here, despite the fact that he sent 5 villagers. If you take a look at the military populations, it's pretty close. Jags coming here, here for H2O as well from the big button. Puma's popping over into cover mode. It looks like we're going to have our fight right here. Everything kind of balled up in this little tiny gap. Looks like so far Zoe pushing forward with this. Puma's trying to do the best he can. These extra warriors are still adding some DPS from the back, but I think this is a fight that H2O is perfectly fine with. His Coyotes have been doing a good job of body blocking in here, just soaking up tons of damage. And now that most of the ranged units are the only things remaining for H2O. It looks like he's going to be perfectly fine. There comes a 5 Coyote pop, and this is just going to be an absolute slaughter for H2O. Zoe mentioning his engagement needs some work. Calls GG in game number 1. Ends at 9 minutes and 11 seconds. Not too far off from what Comet K was mentioning. A pretty quick one. Oftentimes Aztec mirrors can be a little bit quick, especially if one player decides to push the matter in this very aggressive nature. Not much to say about that game. Zoe took a risk with his 3 Jaguar Prowler Knights. It didn't end up working out for him. I think he was hoping that he could find the War Hut in construction. Didn't pay off. Didn't find the War Hut. Didn't really do anything with that 450 food that he invested initially, and then just fell behind. H2O sending the 5 villagers at 6 minutes and 30 seconds, resulting in a stronger economy. Was able to reinforce his army just fine. And then if we take a look at the military graph, at the end there, despite the fact that, you know, H2O did have slightly smaller population, his engagement was spot on, right in that choke, had the right composition, and was able to deal with Zoe's military with ease. So that's going to do it for game number 1. And we'll flip back out to the game and be looking at game number 2 coming up here in just a moment. Oh, invalid password. I tried to guess what I thought it would be. There we go. Next map, as I mentioned just before this, maybe you're just like me, a little bit sleepy, waking up in the morning. Turned on the stream a little bit late. Map number 2 will be Baja California. Following Kamchatka is our first map. The third map, should we get to it, should we need it, which I expect for at least some of these series today, we'll need it, will be Bengal. Zoe opting for India has clicked in. H2O, I do believe, cannot change now due to the fact that we do have the current rules that that the loser picks second. So, of course, having dropped the first map, does get the option to pick second. H2O, it looks like, has selected the German civilization, and Zoe has selected the Indian civilization. I'll click in to let players know I'm ready. And there we go. Game number 2 launching in right now. Looks like the matchup is going to be Germans versus India. Zoe electing to play the Indian civilization. H2O going to be piloting the Germans. And the map is going to be Baja California. A little bit longer of a map. Resources slightly more scarce on this map than they are Kamchatka. We'll have to see what ends up happening as a result of that. Spawning in the right side of the map, playing the German civilization, as I mentioned, is H2O. And his opponent in the color orange, spawning in the left side of the map, playing the Indian civilization, is none other than Zoe. And we'll see what ends up happening. I immediately see 4 villagers going over here to gather hunts for Zoe, which tells me one thing is on his mind, and that is all-out aggression. Let's see what kind of a build he has put together here. I expect that we'll see some sort of 9-10 here as a result of the starting crates. Perhaps if he gathers enough wood to be able to 10-10, he will do so, but is going to have those 9 villagers in queue, and it looks like indeed is going to be 9-10ing. So we'll see whether or not H2O is equipped to prepared to deal with that. It looks like he's going to be taking a fairly slow way up. He is chopping quite a bit of wood, and is just going to be putting down a market now. So we're going to see a lot of tension here very early on in the game. Once again, it's looking like as Zoe is looking to continue to push the issue with these aggressive builds. Remember, he was the aggressive player in game number 1. We can see H2O playing the more economic styles, dropping down the market, researching hunting dogs right now as we speak. And as a result of that, of course, his economy is going to be slightly better, but he's also going to be a little bit more exposed to some potential pressure. Now, this is a map where the hunts are a little bit more scattered out. If we pop off the fog of war, we can see H2O's got this one nice hunt behind his base. His next hunt is kind of isolated down here to the south side of his base, and then following that up, his next hunts are significantly further away as well. So his hunts aren't, terribly close. It's not like Zoya's are overly better, right? I mean, Zoya's hunts, he's got the same hunt about behind his base, and then the next hunts from that are pretty isolated out here to the side. So I don't think the hunts are unfair whatsoever, but I just think that due to the fact that this is a little bit lower of a hunt map compared to like Kamchatka or Siberia, something like that, this could be a little bit more difficult of a hold for H2O. We can see already the Agrifort going down in a somewhat aggressive position. Unfortunately for Zoe, it looks like it's going to be found out about almost immediately, and H2O is going to see that. He's going to know that the 10-10 or 9-10, as it were, is online, and that he should be prepping to deal with the pressure. And we'll see how he reacts to that. Traditionally, I think Germany, against a more standard India build, would opt for an Ulan semi-FF. We'll see how he decides to play against this as a result of Zoe's choice here in build. Perhaps going to have to open some crossbows, or we'll see, maybe he'll just continue to try and age up regardless of the fact that his opponent is playing very aggressively. The Agrifort is about halfway done now, and we can see H2O still has not even aged up. Is going to be aging right on that 17 population, which Germany traditionally does age up with, and we'll see how he allocates his villagers and whether or not that ends up affecting the outcome of what he's going to end up doing here. Is chopping a lot of wood that could potentially be for a trading post, but I suspect it's likely to be for crossbows to be able to deal with this type of pressure that he's likely to face. I don't think that he's going to be just chopping this strictly for a trading post and then immediately switching those villagers over and trying to continue to age up. It would be incredibly greedy to do so at this point, and we'll see how it ends up shaking out. Of course, he did scout the 10-10. He knew exactly what was coming, and even seeing H2O just research Gang Saw there does make me think that perhaps he is going to stick this out in the second age, at least for a little bit of time, until he can stabilize and then try and age up behind it. Certainly, Germany does operate best in the third age, but well, I don't know, maybe fool me twice, I don't know. It looks like he is going to begin gathering some coin. He did gather Gang Saw, and seeing the Gang Saw, that's what made me think, he's probably going to stick it out in the second age, just because by sending Gang Saw, you're committing to chopping a little bit more wood, and I just suspected that due to that extra wood that he was gathering, that he would not... yeah, there's the barracks. Okay, it looks like he's still gathering, the coin to at least get steel traps. We'll see whether or not he continues to gather coin. I'm curious as to what this coin would be for otherwise, if it's not going to be for aging. We can see very defensive placement of his structures, his barracks behind his base. And he's got these 2 houses right out front of his base, and meanwhile, here comes the pressure. 5 sepoy have been trained, 5 sepoy it looks like have been sent as well, for a total of 12 sepoy going to be out on the map currently. Oh yeah, I was going to put this over here. and as a result, the pressure going to be coming very hard here very soon. 700 wood is the card of choice. 2 Ulans going to be popping out, 2 crossbows coming out here as well for H2O. Looks like he hasn't gathered up quite the resources he needs to train more of those. He is going to need to gather up some of these wood crates. Looks like he's going to begin doing that now if he wants to actually be able to train more crossbows. And these 12 sepoy are lurking out here on the side, and as a result, H2O does need to be very, very careful with how he proceeds. He also needs to make sure that his hunt doesn't get too out of control, because should his hunts get a little bit too extended before he's able to get up the crossbows to actually deal with these sepoys, it could be very, very difficult for him moving forward to gather from his next hunt. The 2 villagers, settler wagons rather, are going to be popped at a little bit here from the sepoy. Crossbows starting to take a little bit of damage. I suspect H2O should have an 8 crossbow shipment here on the way relatively soon, should he deem it necessary. And also notice how he's just got the settler wagons out gathering, which, due to the fact that they do have 30% range resistance, makes them pretty beefy against any sort of sepoy fire here. Just keeping those ones out, and well, it looks like 3 settler wagons going to come out. Going to continue to try and play the econ game as much as possible while soaking up some damage. The 2 Ulans that did accompany them do go down almost immediately, but we can see these settler wagons tanking quite a bit of damage. H2O being very careful with how he allocates them, has dealt with the pressure pretty well so far, and now we see the rest of the villagers popping out. We do have to be a little bit concerned for H2O, in his hunt department does have just these 3 pronghorn up to the north side of his base. And similarly has, this big patch of pronghorn down here to the south side of his base. But both of these are pretty exposed locations, and are things that we'll have to watch to see if they become pressurable locations at any point. We do also have the 2 Ulans running around from the shipment, trying to apply some pressure, and also a trading post going down for H2O. So still trying to keep his economic potential up as much as possible, but it's going to be a little bit tougher now that we see these 4 sours coming. And the Minutemen pop is going to have to be very good for H2O. We can see the resources starting to pop, starting to stockpile up a little bit, trying to potentially age, but ooh, nice little block there with the settler wagons. Here come the Minutemen, going to get in the way very nicely. A couple settler wagons coming out here as well to soak up as much damage as possible. H2O has dealt with 2 of the sours. 2 of the sours are right on top of the crossbows. Looks like some pretty good villager fighting here from H2O, doing a pretty good job of soaking a lot of damage. Has eliminated all of the sours, and just a few of the sepoy do remain here. Does have 1 Minuteman still remaining in this mix as well, but it looks like all of his crossbows are going to be dealt with. Now remember, behind this, Zoe's economy is not very strong. If you look at the economic unit population, it is very one-sided, and that's kind of to be expected, right? Zoe went with this very aggressive, fairly all-in build, and should this not work for him right now, he's going to find it very, very difficult to continue in this game. But for the time being, he does have quite a few villagers penned up. Do notice that we've also got these villagers here that are kind of playing a dangerous game down to the south of H2O's base. I think he was expecting that Zoe had this scouted out and was potentially going to come and raid down here, and then it didn't end up actually happening. So looks like he's going to continue to try and gather down there. A couple Doppelsonders being trained out of that coin that was initially being saved for the age up. And now we've also got the 8 crossbow shipment. And I think that was a little bit of a mistake, maybe perhaps a little bit greedy, sending the 3 settler wagons before the 8 crossbows, trying to get up. Perhaps he thought maybe Zoe was just going to continue with the more economic follow-up, but that's not going to be true. 8 crossbows here now, also 5 Rajput shipment from Zoe as well. Looking at his intent, looks like it's going to continue to be aggressive, and a little bit of kiting going to go down on these guys, going to try and keep them back as much as possible. Looks like he is going to be able to deal with most of the heavy infantry units here from Zoe, doing a good job with his crossbows, trying to pop down as much damage as possible on those, picking off low HP sepoy, and now is going to be, it looks like, able to whittle the rest of those away. Going to use his settler wagons for once again a little bit more tankability to try and just block them as much as possible, keep them out of the fight, and it looks like he's going to be able to clean all of this up. Looking at the resources, H2O basically just a 700 coin shipment away from aging, and well, guess what's online? Here comes that 700 coin shipment. Should he gather that up, he should be just fine to be able to age. 3 DOPs coming out, going to be able to push back the sepoy, allow these settler wagons to gather up those resources. Is 100 resources short of being able to age, but having now killed the pressure, dealt with the pressure, looking to be in a perfectly fine position to be able to age up. And indeed, we can see his resources pushing their way up to 1,600 food, 1,000 coin, and there does go the ever important age up tech. Looks like it's just queued up here behind a villager, and once that villager comes out, looks like should be on our way up. There it is, and it's going to be the Exiled Prince. Also important to note, 1 card does currently exist for H2O, so when he gets aged up, he will be able to immediately send something like, oh, I don't know, 8 skirm. And take a look at the economic unit population behind this as well. 35 eco units to 23. H2O is sitting in a fabulous position. In fact, he's going to get even a little bit of a raid going down here with these 2 Ulans as well. So Zoe can't be happy about his current position. Has to know he's pretty far behind. And just seeing the lack of military units in his opponent's base, I think he's got to suspect that his opponent is likely aging here. And indeed, that is the case. H2O has reached the fortress age. We see these sepoys that have been trained for Zoe. We'll see whether or not they try and immediately create some sort of response. But behind all this, we do have to remember that H2O is going to be able to send 7 skirms, 3 war wagons, any sort of anti-aggressive shipment here that's going to be able to kill this pressure completely. And we can see Zoe, I mean, he's still just building stuff like his very first consulate. He hasn't gotten any market upgrades. He's just got the default upgrade that comes for being the Indian civilization. So economically, H2O has been very far ahead for the entirety of this game. And as a result, well, it looks like it's going to be 3 war wagons here trained. And I like that. It's a smart decision, just due to the fact that, you know, the barracks has been trained. He's able to make some skirmishers. And shipping the 3 war wagons ensures that had your opponent, you know, been doing something like making sours or doing something tricky behind this, trying to catch you in a tech switch or something like that, that it's probably the most safe, well-rounded shipment available to him. So does send that. I think we'll probably see him send 1 more shipment and then potentially try and push out here a little bit. Of course, he does have all the shadow tech units available to him, veteran skirmishers, veteran war wagons, and perhaps going to be trying to get that veteran Ulan upgrade as well. Let's see if it's being researched. It is indeed being researched, and well, I think we can expect either 8 skirms or 9 Ulans to come as the next card. And when that comes, potentially a push out for the first time from the German player. Oops, I just noticed that should be 1. And there comes the 8 skirms, and we'll see whether or not that ends up being some sort of a push out here for H2O. Looks like he does have a pretty scary army. If you look at the military unit population, 48 to 24, almost double in favor of the blue player. Excuse me. Early in the morning. Got to wake up a little bit. Need some more caffeine. But looks like he is going to push out. Of course, he does have to worry about the Agrifort. Does have to push into that, which is going to be a little bit more difficult than one may assume, just because it is sitting in the centralized choke point that ideally H2O would want to push through. It does have 5,000 hit points and that annoying 25 bombard attack as well, so not going to be exactly trivial to push underneath that. Plus, all this time Zoe has been training quite a few sepoy as well, so it's not like his army is tiny, but at the same time, H2O has a perfectly adequate response to this. Essentially only musketeers here for Zoe. If we take a look at the 2 types of musketeers he's got redcoats and he's got sepoy, both of which are going to be punished quite heavily by the skirmishers. Zoe does have a pretty good mass of musketeers here, but unfortunately for him, he's just going to run into this wall of skirmishers, going to get kited to pieces. and we'll see how he deals with that. Currently, no cavalry units available for him. And it looks like here comes the push. Going to potentially be checking this coin mine up to the north, and that is a smart thing to do. Currently, H2O should be running out of coin. He is going to be soon running out of this coin mine. We can see it down here to the bottom right. In fact, it just expired. H2O also going to run into that big mask of muskets, and he's going to know exactly what his opponent has been making as a result. Let's see where the villagers are running. It looks like the villagers are running down to this coin mine to the south side, and certainly is a smart location for them to be looking to gather from. Similarly, at the same time, H2O is out around the map with his cavalry units, trying to cause as much grief as possible. And it looks like we also have the skirmisher kite is going to be beginning. Of course, the Sepoys trying to get up into range so that they can actually deal with these units, but going to be finding a very difficult time with that. War wagons coming in from the side here, both of the scouts down as well, and now it looks like H2O going to be able to full-on engage. The war wagons, the skirmishers, making very quick work of these skirmisher units, cutting them down where they stand very, very quickly, very efficiently. And it looks like everything's just going to be jamming its way in here. 7 skirmishers coming here for H2O as well. Almost certainly going to be the icing on the cake. And, well, Zoe expressing his disbelief that H2O would train a war wagon. And, well, likely as a result is going to have to tap out here. If we take a look at the military unit population, pretty one-sided. GG, well played, calls from Zoe. H2O will advance to the next round, to the round of 32, where well, I don't know who he'll be playing. We can maybe take a look at the brackets after this when we've hammered out a little bit more of the round of 64 results. But H2O, congrats to him, going to be moving on to the round of 32. Zoe unfortunately ran into perhaps one of the best players in the tournament in the round of 64. Just a bit unlucky in that regard, but props to him for trying in playing in the tournament. Of course, if nobody played in tournaments, if we didn't have all sorts of skill level of players, well, then it wouldn't really be much of a tournament, right? It would just be a couple guys playing OBS games once again. So Zoe, being a good sport, thanking Ryan for his time, and thank you, Zoe, for your time for playing in the event, providing a little bit of entertainment, if nothing else, with your aggressive builds, but dropping to H2O, unable to sneak a cheeky win off of him, and as a result is going to be blanked by H2O 2-0